Buenos dias everyone, hello and welcome back to the other side. If you've been watching the videos, hopefully you're starting to put together some of the jigsaw pieces, and we'll just get straight into it today because time is of the essence. So we're back on Fiat Link. We've got some candles here for XRP USD. That's Fiat Link. That's the candles. Yep, look where we've come from. I'll join for free. Maybe I should just do that. But yeah, the candles were showing we've come from 240, something like 10 o'clock this morning, all the way up to, well, nearly 265 earlier. So today we're talking the ISO20022 timeline. November the 22nd, 2025 marks the deadline for the coexistence of the old MT, that means message type, financial system, and the new system based on the ISO20022 messaging system. And this is what will be known as MX. This has been something with at least 21 years of preparation, with momentum really snowballing in the last few years. I can't really overstate how significant this really is, whether you're invested in these technologies or not. And we are still, for now, in the transition phase. So we're going to be diving into the timeline a little bit, henceforth known as the timeline. And why should you care? These deadlines are a tipping point for coins like XRP and HBAR and QNT. So it's not really just another date. We'll hit the major ones and what they mean for your wallet, which coins could soar, because the financial system approaches rapidly. So today you really have to bear in mind that we take it for granted that there's a global financial standard. This obviously hasn't always been the case. We don't really have to think about it, it just exists. So standardization only really took hold in the early 1970s. I won't deep dive on these in this video, or I'll be here all day. But here's a quick overview. 1973. So as well as being the year of Watergate, the Watergate scandal, and the end of the Vietnam War, we had the introduction of the Swift message type, so MT. In 1987, the first ISO standard came along, and this was standard 7775, so 7775. Followed 12 years later in 1999 by 15022. This had more structure and data handling ability, and probably, had something to do with something called the internet taking off, but it was still pretty limited. 2004, the much talked about ISO20022. This became the new standard. So you might justifiably be thinking, digital asset observer, if we've had this for 2 decades, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that the messaging format that Swift has been using for over 50 years is changing. So if you remember the MT back from 1973, that entered a coexistence period with the new system, the MX, in 2023. That coexistence period comes to an end on the 22nd of November 2025, where full adoption for Swift takes over. So it's goodbye to the outdated 52-year-old MT system and hello to the new MX system. An analog system over half a century old is getting made redundant. So imagine if you or your father or your grandfather could have invested in a piece of the old financial system in, say, 1970 up until 1973, before it rolled out. So this is where our quants, our XRPs and our HBARs, our ADAs, our ADAs can really start to come into their own. A normal person like you or me or anybody can own a piece of the new financial system. This will be another tick in the box, institutional adoption and regulation being other ticks we will see very soon. The CEO of Ripple said himself, this is the first time retail investors can beat institutions to the opportunity. So we'll get into the weeds a little bit with some numbers and some facts and some figures. So regarding SWIFT, since March 2023, and that was the beginning of the coexistence period for the two messaging systems, MT and MX, old and new. So since March 2023, SWIFT's over 11,000 banks have been in a coexistence phase, allowing both MT and MX for cross-border payments. By November 2025, ISO20022 MX will be. As of August 2024, 26% of SWIFT's cross-border traffic was ready. So the US systems, the CHIPS clearing network adopted the new standard in April 2024. The Federal Reserve's FedWire is set to transition on July 14th, 2025. This was delayed from March 2025. It shifted to July, so it got held back a few months because banks and institutions needed more time. This in of itself will impact over 5,000 banks who move billions daily. Now to global systems. Europe's Target 2, Japan's BOJ net, and Australia's NPP are all aligning for November 2025. The legacy MT formats, these text-based limited data messages, are still in use during the coexistence phase. So to reiterate once again, by November the 22nd, 2025, they're getting phased out, as they won't be able to handle data-rich or instant cross-border payments efficiently. So instant cross-border payments, that term should ring a bell. If it doesn't, I'll give you a hint. Ripple. So why does this matter if you're invested in any of these technologies? Well, when the new system becomes mandatory, there will be a lot of demand. So when demand goes up, supply goes down, and you know the rest. So let's try and wrap this up into some, short, simple bullet points. Out with an old 52-year-old messaging system, MT, in with the new MX. FedWire in the US are doing this in July, delayed from March. This becomes mandatory globally for thousands of banks on November the 22nd, 2025. Fintech companies with compliant tokens like XRP, QNT and HBAR will form the infrastructure of the new financial system. Demand will increase massively, supply will shrink accordingly. And finally, and what I think is most important for you and me, is you can own a part of the new system today. So thank you if you made it through to the end. Give a digital thumbs up if you like this digital video or found something valuable in there. And I think that's it. I didn't have anything else. We tried to look at the candles. Oh yeah, so if you want to, if you want to look at the timeline for yourself, just pop into any search engine, ISO20022 timeline, and lots of them will pop up. You've got different ones from Lloyd's Bank, you've got a host of choices. So we'll just come back to Fiat Leak 256, not bad. So I'll see you on the other side. Have a good one.